automated webinar meant nothing to people. Those people who did know about automated webinar software that had existed prior to us typically had a really bad reputation as being scammy. So first of all, it's a category that people don't really understand or grasp. And so how the hell are you going to get them to stop scrolling? No matter what messaging we tried, we were not able to stop people and get them to click through. Some of that might be unique to us, but I think in general, ads too early is definitely a mistake.
Welcome to ProfitLed Season 2, Episode 14. I'm Melissa Kwan, co-founder and CEO of eWebinar and your host, and I'm here with my co-host, Todd Parmley, eWebinar's COO. Hey, Todd, how's it going in your building today, specifically?
Well, the firemen were just here. This is New York for you. If you watch Episode 13... you might see some unusual edits because we recorded this and the last episode on the same day and the fire trucks were arriving during that episode. But yeah, we had a carbon monoxide thing in our basement, so we're fine now.
And everyone else's alarm went off except for yours because you had your windows open.
Because I had my windows open with the fans on because it's in a heat wave today. So,
well, in the last episode, we talked about why we decided to own our SEO strategy after hiring numerous agencies that underdelivered, why we thought they underdelivered, and of course, how we actually went about owning that strategy ourselves. Today's episode is pretty juicy. We're going to talk about the 10 go-to-market strategies we tried that did not work on our way to $1 million ARR. Some of these are going to come as a surprise, but some of these are not. So I'm excited to kind of go through them. I've got a list in front of me. So I think the easiest way to do this is just to kind of read through them and we can jog our memory and you can share your perspective and I can share mine. I think one of the first things that we tried, just real marketing, not sales, because remember, like I was still doing founder-led sales during, a lot of these. And one of the first things that we did, I think it was like 4 months after launch, was wanting to launch on Product Hunt. We put in a lot of effort. I spent about $7,500 on just like a consultant to help us with this launch. And like, I know I talk a lot about like saving money and being mindful of burn, but I'm always willing to invest in strategies that I believe have an ROI. And I'm also always willing to invest in people to teach me how to do something so I can learn it in the shortest amount of time. And that's how I evaluate ROI as well. So Product Hunt, hiring a consultant to kind of help get things in order was one of those things. But, I think we put in, I want to say like 2-3 months to get the assets ready, get the product ready, have an offer that made sense, have features specific to a Product Hunt launch. And in the end, I think we did a pretty good job. We launched on a Tuesday, which was, supposed to be the busiest day of Product Hunt, the big day. And I think we came in top 3. The reason why you want to come in top 3 is because then you get featured in the newsletter the next day, which goes out who knows how many hundreds of thousands of readers or emails. Not readers, emails. And that was a lot of exposure, but we got one known successful customer. I mean, that was madness.
There's something about Product Hunt that it feels like it's like your debutante ball, you're sort of like coming out to the world. And it feels like that's what you need to do.
It's like a graduation from launch, right? It's like you launch to the world and then you launch on Product Hunt. I don't know if it's still like that. I'm so disconnected from like launching products, but it definitely felt that way.
Yes. At the time it felt that way. Again, I don't know if that's really true anymore. I think in the end, clearly with only one customer, we spent too much effort on it. It was probably valuable, the experience of like honing some of our messaging and things like that. But it was an exciting day and I'm glad we did well, but it was a letdown. Like nothing came of it.
Yeah. I mean, I can share in the show notes, by the way, from this experience of working with consultant. I have a very extensive Product Hunt launch checklist that I put on Notion to help others if they want to go this route. What was really surprising to me about being on Product Hunt was the audience. It became very apparent very quickly that they do have a lot of exposure, very wide audience, and I think it's still a pretty active site or community, but it's all hackers, people that like nifty products, and like we're a B2B product. It didn't really resonate with that group. Like you'd probably do better having some AI bot that does a really cool thing but makes no money. I guess I didn't fully understand that, nor did anybody tell me at the time. So now now this is something that I tell people. The reason why we spent so much time and energy on it is because you can't really launch often. And it was also not something that, we thought we were going to do over and over because we were just so overwhelmed with the number of things that we needed to do. This is like a few months after our own launch. But I do think the benefits that kind of came out of it was really like honing in on our messaging, getting certain assets designed and features out that we wanted to show off that maybe wouldn't have made it within that timeline. Within Product Hunt, I forgot like how many slides you get. And we had those designed and we had a better kind of analytics screen that we didn't have, but we got it done. And certain like customer testimonials. We had an integration that we had with Product Hunt so we could talk about it. But I think the major benefit was it gave me a reason to reach out to people, like in my own network, to tell them, hey, by the way, we're launching this thing on Product Hunt. Look at us again. Do you want to see what this does? Of course, we already had a 2-minute video made that we put on the page as well. But all of that was actually quite beneficial from a sales perspective. And what we had created after that one day was a giant testimonials landing page. Part of people coming to support you is writing a comment on how awesome you are and to congratulate you. By the way, you can't ask someone to outvote you. It's like a no-no. I sent out a calendar invite for people to put on their calendar. They had multiple Calendly slots that they could choose, and then they could click on that and then be able to write a comment. Like I had all these nifty tricks to get them to that page. So I think there were like 400 people that actually went there and wrote something, which was huge. And we always have that. And that's an evergreen asset. I don't know how high it ranks, but it's something that, it's not like a complete wash, right? It's even though it didn't get all the signups and revenue that we wanted, it was still a great marketing asset that just kind of like lives on the internet.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the only kind of like hindsight advice I would give to anyone doing this is to just follow the checklist and not sweat it so much. It feels like such a big deal, but if you follow the checklist, that you'll execute well, but you can just get it done. Because I think that was part of the thing too, is we had pretty high expectations for something to come of it.
Yeah. I mean, I think just know the audience, right? Like first know that you can launch again and know that the audience are like kind of indie hackers, early stage founders, like super, super early stage founders, usually product focused developers. Ask yourself if that's the audience that's going to buy from you. And that was not the audience that was going to buy from us. So definitely lesson learned.
Yeah, we definitely got benefits from it. But if we were to go back, we would not do it again.
I think I would do it, but not spend that effort. Like I would just roll it out and not spend the money, not spend the time, not spend the effort. And, that's why we're having this conversation with you guys now to tell you guys to kind of lower expectations. The second thing was digital marketing. And I know we touched on that mostly on SEO last episode, but like just digital marketing as a whole. And we wanted to pay someone to take away our pain and then realize that we couldn't pay someone to just do digital marketing because it's not a single function. And I think we tried like a minimum of 3 different content firms, 2 ad buying firms or consultants that just kind of got us nowhere. And it was like 9 to 12 months journey, like working just through multiple people.
I think the thing that didn't work is that we tried to have someone do it for us without really understanding what it was, not really understanding the functions of marketing and the different functions of marketing. But as a small bootstrapped startup, you can't expect someone to take that pain away from you for sure.
Yeah. And just know that you're going from 0 to 1 when you need to experiment with a lot of things. You don't know what you are yet. Your customers don't know what you are yet. You don't fully know the problems that you're solving and how you're solving for people. And so hiring someone to do your marketing when they don't have anything to market is why that strategy doesn't work. It's just something that needs to come later. I think in the beginning, it's really just about like getting a really great product out there, getting people to use it, and then extracting that language, those case studies from your customers, figuring out your own marketing language before you even attempt having someone do digital marketing. And of course, like try to own as much of it as you can, but don't make the same mistake that we did and just expect like someone else to just like remove that part of your business. I would say now, like our business is probably 90% marketing. Like, of course, we make product and we build features and all those things, but our real brain power is spent on marketing.
That is why founder-led sales are so important, because it fills that gap between figuring out all those things and when you can actually put the gas behind digital marketing. But it's also when you're able to learn and hone your messaging and find out from customers why they switch to you, all that stuff. So it's not like you can sit there and not make money, but that's why founder-led sales is kind of the bridge while you figure out marketing stuff.
Yeah. So the third thing that didn't work that we spent quite some resources and time on is just writing mediocre content for the sake of mediocre content. And we're not talking about SEO, like writing blogs for the sake of having something. Yes, we did that, but getting into newsletters of completely unrelated companies, just trying to get our name like literally in anywhere, getting people to feature us, or website pages that were not very thoughtful, but just wanting to have that to beef up our website, doing guest writing blogs or letting other people write on our blog as a guest post that was kind of unrelated, co-marketing content. We paid a couple firms, I think based in India, to do like quote unquote PR, but it was just like, let's get content out in the internet with zero thought behind it, outside of just wanting to get content out in the wild. None of that brought us anything except for, which in hindsight, I believe, content that actually represented our company in a light that we didn't want to be represented in.
Even the quality of the content was mediocre, but I think the main point was that it was not thoughtful. We just started trying to just get everything that we could out there because we just didn't really understand how to be strategic or focused about content yet.
And the thing is, like, writing bad content, when you pay these kind of firms to do it, not only does it not read well, right? Sometimes like it's grammatically wrong. Like sentences are poorly structured. I don't know where they're writing them, right? Like sometimes even like punctuation is off and then you spend a lot of time editing it and then it just kind of goes out there. And then I think they've got networks where they exchange backlinks with, but no one's going to read that and be like, yeah, I think I'm going to buy this software, right? Like in fact, it might be the contrary, right? It might be like, why are you here? Why did you pay this person, this blog to just get you on there?
In hindsight, what we were doing was absurd. It was not doing a thing for us.
I mean, the backstory is nobody knows marketing. So we were like in marketing kindergarten trying to do stuff that has any impact. And a lot of the stuff that we did were things that I learned from a blog or a Facebook group or a Slack channel or a group. You know, I'm just trying to learn from other founders or marketing people and just trying to do it myself, right? So I didn't really have a bar for all these things. But of course, part of this journey is like, you live, you learn.
You just got to start executing, because even though it does seem absurd what we were doing, it did get us to where we are today in terms of understanding what works and what doesn't. So like to sit in some kind of paralysis is also not helpful either.
So the fourth one is paid ads. So mentioned before, we worked with 2 different ad buyers. I think it might have been 3. I don't know. Let's just say 2, but maybe 3. We didn't have enough budget to do this meaningfully. But nobody tells you that. And that's actually really frustrating for me, right? Like every single ad buyer will say, oh, you can test something for $100, test something for $500. I really don't think you can. Yes, you can spend that money, but it's not meaningful. So now I'm spending money on a retainer, but I'm also paying for the ads that aren't going to go anywhere. And that has a lot to tie in with like how early we were as well. And we still don't spend money on like paid ads, right? We do like retargeting stuff just to kind of own our own traffic, probably like less than $1,000 a month. But back then we didn't even know how to describe ourselves. And then we were expecting an ad buyer to write the content to help sell us based on what we thought other people were seeing us. So that's also kind of sounds absurd now that I'm saying it out loud. Also learning that our product is not a scroll stopper. We are not in a mature product category. We are not Zoom. We are not webinars. We are an automated webinars. In fact, I still don't know, we're way past 1 million at the recording of this. I still don't know if automated webinar is the best way to describe us. We're still kind of playing with that over time. But now, like, we're talking 6 months to a year post-launch, we were trying paid ads because we were kind of desperate to get people through the door.
Yeah, and I think maybe some of this problem was unique to us in the sense that automated webinar meant nothing to people. Those people who did know about automated webinar software that had existed prior to us typically had a really bad reputation as being scammy. So first of all, it's a category that people don't really understand or grasp. And so how the hell are you going to get them to stop scrolling? No matter what messaging we tried, we were not able to stop people and get them to click through. Some of that might be unique to us, but I think in general, ads too early is definitely a mistake.
Yeah, and I don't think we spent a ton of money on it, I think. But through that experience, really realizing like, oh, actually, if you're a MailChimp, you're a scroll stopper. I think the light bulb moment for me was how many inquiries we were getting like through the website and in our demo, that needed us to explain what we do in detail. Like nobody understood this without going through a demo and asking us questions within that demo. So how can we expect them to fully understand what we did and then click through to the site in 2 seconds or like a split second? So after realizing that, it was like, oh, okay, we should actually just stop the bleeding because we're just wasting money. So the fifth one is email outreach. That's kind of like between sales and marketing, but I was trying to do like mass email outreach. I don't know if anyone reads cold emails anymore. I don't. Maybe for enterprise products, but certainly not the product at our price point, which back then was, starting at 50, now it's 100. I didn't really know anything outside of sales, right? I was a sales-led founder for a decade, right? So I hired somebody and I worked with him for probably like 9 months at least. He was very, very good at email outreach, like mass outreach, like warming up emails, getting people's emails, verifying them, sending them in batches. I was writing the content and he was trying to help me write the content, but I would edit it. And then he would do the outreach himself. That did not work at all. We didn't get a single sale. I think a lot of it also had to do with I had a no call policy. I still do. So when he got someone to respond, they would want to sit in a demo. Because actually that's how people receive those emails. They're like, yeah, I'm interested. Let's book a call. But then my follow-up would be, well, just go look at this demo. And then they just never do. So I'm using a sales-led approach to get them, but then a marketing product-led approach to follow up. Which is completely disjointed.
I was not directly involved, I don't think, in any of this. All I know is that you were telling me it wasn't working.
Yeah, and it was frustrating for them as well. They're like, well, why did you reach out to me if you don't want to hop on a call? Because that's just what they're used to. And then I would sometimes get ridiculed for not wanting to get on a call, but that was my policy. Sometimes I would, but it was just kind of demoralizing because whether you're selling a $50 product or a $50,000 product, it's the same call. It's the same amount of time. In fact, it's a way more sophisticated buyer at 50,000. So now I'm kind of getting these people that aren't taking me very seriously because of the price perception and not making the sale, but spending, half an hour, 45 minutes. It wasn't really fun for me. So I'm not saying that sales outreach doesn't work. I think it didn't work for us. It was hard letting that person go because he was a contractor. Of course, everybody's a contractor on our team, but he was just doing such a good job and he wasn't seeing success. I'm sure it was frustrating for him as well. The sixth one that didn't work, and I tried this for a very brief amount of time, is LinkedIn outreach. And this was before I started writing on LinkedIn regularly. It was like email outreach, but actually adding, connecting with people and then sending them a message and wanting to show them a demo. This was the cringiest thing I've ever done. To date. And I am the queen of cold calling, cold emails. I would not recommend trying this at home. We did not automate it. I know people do now, and that is something you absolutely should not do because LinkedIn really cracks down on that. If you have a bot that actually helps you do the outreach, they could ban your account anytime and sometimes you can't get it back. So I was going to these sales groups, customer success groups, founder groups, messaging people, asking them if they wanted to look at our website, if they had this issue, just kind of the typical sales stuff. I've been doing cold outreach for well over, a decade, probably around 15 years. Previous to startups, I was always in enterprise sales. I have never heard worse responses than LinkedIn outreach. People have never used more vile language to get me to stop talking to them. It was insane. I don't know. I think people are just generally more angry nowadays. I don't know if they're oh, this is a good target, but they're just cruel. And after a couple months, I was no way. I need to stop this.
This is probably TMI, but I remember I was going through some folders in our shared drive looking for some marketing material, and I came across a folder called LinkedIn Whoring. So I know that you did not exactly enjoy the process.
No, and then afterwards I did a different kind of LinkedIn Whoring. I just started writing on it. But we'll talk about that in a later episode. So the seventh one that didn't work, and we will have a full episode dedicated to this, affiliates and partnerships. We were way, way, way too early to invest in that as a primary channel. I thought we were at a point where we didn't need a salesperson because it was not a sales-led product. I thought our product was mature and good enough because people were raving about our product such that we could engage some influencers, affiliates, and some partnerships to help sell it for us. We will dive into this in the later episode, but it was my biggest financial mistake to date. that investment. It didn't yield anything. I think we spent like 10 months, 130,000 and attributed something like $500 a month to the revenue. I mean, it is still a very, very painful experience for a multitude of reasons, not just revenue, that we had tried like way too early.
I've come to the conclusion that even in a later stage, there are only certain products that really can do anything with affiliates. I mean, it's like, you know how you see so much affiliate marketing for VPN software? The reason why is because the upfront amount that that people pay is so high that it's worth it for affiliates to do it because they get one big payout up front. But like for something at our price point, it was really hard even to get affiliates interested.
Yeah, I mean, we are gonna really dive into all the reasons why we figured out or just maybe assumed why it didn't work. But I think the main reason, if I were to say like why it didn't work, was our product was not easy to sell because it's not mature product category, because it's not a scroll stopper, right? So a lot of these other things didn't work also because of kind of those same reasons, right? So it's one of those things where like you wish you could pay someone to take your pain away. None of us had marketing background. I was told that affiliates and partnership can work if you have a dedicated person, and I wasn't going to do it myself. It's actually a lot of work. It's not like go to this influencer and offer them money and they'll sell it for you. Like that is not how it works. And I think that was kind of a really tough learning also, is like, I thought it would be that simple. Like I thought it would be like, hey, we'll give you 20% and then you can just expose us to your network. The agreement, the financial agreement that you have with them is step one. And to your point, like 20% of $50, $100 is like nothing. Like someone else is selling a $20,000 product and they're making $4,000 on that. And they're a way bigger company and they can also give them exposure in return. So all these are really tough learnings, but that's why we're talking about them right now.
But I also think it's interesting what you said is that if you look back at all of these, a lot of them are attributed to the same root problem, which is that we still didn't know what our messaging was. We were not a scroll stopper. We were not a mature product category. There were lots of things that were stacked against us that we really didn't know to kind of stop and let that mature organically over time. We just kept trying things, which was good. We learned. But yeah, a lot of these things can kind of point back to some of the same reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to try things, but it's also being a founder and being a bootstrap founder is also having the awareness and the clarity on when to stop something, right? It's understanding like, okay, how long should I give it? And when do I know that this is just not going to work? And that's sometimes a really fine line, but that's part of why this job is so hard.
Yeah, you want to give something a fair shake, but stop grinding your face into the grindstone if it's not working. Just stop.
Yeah, and every dollar spent on something that doesn't work or time is an opportunity cost towards something else. So the eighth thing, which we've only done once, is event sponsorships, like live event sponsorships. You know, we were kind of playing with a few different industries or lines of businesses back then. You know, one of our biggest use cases, and still is today, is customer success. CS teams using us for training and onboarding. And there was a CS conference that was hosted by one of the largest customer success software companies in the industry. I had a hunch that it wasn't going to work. Like we weren't going to get our ROI on money, but I needed to try it, right? As part of that thing, like you need to try it. And when we try something, we give it our all, because otherwise I would think, oh, maybe it's because we didn't try enough. So as everybody knows, right? Like event sponsorships are super expensive. You got to have a booth, you got to be there, but I wasn't going to be there. So I was talking to this software company and I basically just told them our situation, that I don't do live events, but I want to participate in some way. And, you know, they knew we were an early stage startup, wanted to get us involved. And I really just had a logo that was revolving in one of their TVs in the hallway. And so I think it was still like 5, 6, 7,000, like somewhere in that range. But that was like a 50% discount than what another company would pay. And so a lot of people that sponsor those events are selling $10,000 to $100,000 a year products. They kind of understood that. And I think they thought it was cute that we wanted to be there, but I needed to prove to myself. So part of wanting to kind of make the most out of that was engaging a partner on the ground. So I had a friend / partner that is still a CS consultant for larger companies, and they were going to have a booth there. I worked out a partnership with them where I said, hey, like show our 2-minute video on your TV at your booth, have our brochures there, and and we will give you money to run a contest. So I forgot exactly what the contest was, but it was like an Instagram type contest, and they get to choose a winner that's going to be one of their potential clients to win $500 cash. So we really did try everything. I think all in all, we spent about like $10,000, like running the contest, engaging the partner, and then paying for the sponsorship. And we got $0 in return. I think the person that won the money wouldn't even give me time to give them a demo. So since then, I don't do anything of that sort. And I think the year after, this company was like, hey, do you want to sponsor again? I'm like, no. But you can see how, like, if a company had a more expensive product, that kind of investment would make sense. Luckily, I didn't have to go there, because going there would have added a minimum of like 5,000.
Yeah, and I think it's important to just reiterate that we don't kind of half-ass things. Like, we really give it a fair shake. We do our best to make it work. We're not like sticking our toe in halfway. So I feel like when we do try something and it doesn't work, we have pretty good evidence to say, yeah, we just need to move on.
The ninth, which is actually quite surprising to me, were like newsletters. You know, everyone's trying to get into newsletters, and I think they still do today. But I remember being the only feature in a 250,000 person newsletter from a partner and getting 18 trials. I mean, you could think about, like, even if they have like an open rate of 2 to 5%, 18 trials is not a lot. Like, I mean, it's outrageously low. Back then, we would fight also to get into like the HubSpot newsletter, the Zapier newsletter, so many different newsletters with massive lists, consultants newsletters. I've tried paying for sponsored positions on like tech influencer newsletters and creator newsletters as well, with like what I believe is a shared audience. But none of those felt like a good investment, not just of my time, but also of like the money that we put in. And like, I remember paying, I think anywhere between like 2,000 to 5,000 for like 3 sentences. Like, depending on the audience, that's how much you would pay to be at the top of a newsletter. Like, I'm actually surprised by that, because some of these audiences are like small businesses or creators that would use this product, and they're from credible people that are sending them out. So I'm still surprised that didn't work. But if you are listening and you're wondering, like, should I spend thousands of dollars to get into these newsletters? I think you're probably better off just spending time and money kind of creating your own content and putting it out there. And the last one, which is not so much a go-to-market strategy, but something that we thought would get us a lot more eyeballs and conversion, was around like 600,000-700,000 ARR. We did a pretty big design update. I think people liked the product as it was, but there were things, especially the mobile experience, that we had to forego in the beginning just for time. And we thought that would at least move the needle to help people kind of make a decision and convert. We probably spent 3 to 4 months on that, just that on its own. And I don't think it changed people's decision-making process, but I do think it made them happier, because we did not see an uptick in signups or conversion.
The main thing that we gained from that was a much better mobile experience. Because even though our product kind of looked modern and fresh relative to other products in the category, it still didn't quite meet kind of the level of design that we wanted, that we thought would make just the aesthetic of it be even more compelling, at least for people to check out. But it just didn't move the needle much. I mean, as a product manager, I tend to think that the reason for that is that ultimately the new feature has to have real tangible value for the customer. Even if it's prettier, yes, they will enjoy it. Yes, that helps, but it's not going to move the needle much.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean we wouldn't have done it. I still think we would have done it, because when we do something, like, we are the company that goes the extra mile. But I think setting your expectations as to like just understanding that this is not going to add more revenue probably makes you feel better. And just know that you're doing it just to provide a better experience. And that's okay, because I think that value compounds. And when you keep doing the 2% where no one else is willing to go, especially your competitors, people really take notice to that. And that's the credibility and trust and brand that you build with your audience.
The company I worked at previously, they brought in a consultant. She was the former CIO of the NFL. And one of the things that she said that struck me is, like, if you work in tech and you expect your customers to stand up and applaud when you give them something new and great, you're in the wrong business. She's like, if you launch something new and you are greeted with mostly silence, you have knocked it out of the park, because that means that it just works. It works how it was intended. People are happy. It flows well. That's still always really hard on me, at least.
I mean, I remember in my last startup, one of our customers would be like, I know you guys are doing a good job, but we only hear from people. And at that time we were selling to real estate agents. Like, we only hear from them when they're complaining. And that's the reality. People expect things to work now. It's expect to be bug free and not break down. Yeah. And he's like, while I sound negative, I'm just not telling you when things are positive. So like, no news is good news.
Yeah. And I think that's actually important. If you launch something big and new and you hear back from some people like, oh, this is great, but the majority of the quote unquote feedback is actually nothing, interpret that as a positive. You did something really well. It did not interrupt anyone's experience. If you're basing your product roadmap on evidence from customers, then you did a good job. But you only hear from the squeaky wheels, that's for sure.
I guess to conclude here, what I've realized from this experience, especially being a sales-led founder and then coming into product-led and marketing-led, is most marketing doesn't move the needle. There are so many things that you think will help move the needle, but they just don't. And this is especially true with people. People you hire in the early stage that you think could take your pain away or help propel you, you need to figure out a lot of those things yourself first before you engage someone. You know, the things that we thought would have any impact, not even huge impact, just didn't. But even though 9 out of 10 things that we do or that we didn't work very well, we did them anyway, and we would still do them because we don't know the one thing that might work really well. And I also think that it's a myth to think about marketing as like this end goal, right? This hockey stick end goal growth that just doesn't exist. There's no like thing that you do and all of a sudden everything shoots up. That I think is kind of a unicorn myth, right? I think everything collectively helps a little. It's really hard to attribute which one did, but everything that you do helps build your brand and credibility. People see it over and over and over, and then all of a sudden you're top of mind. Even though I say like, okay, well, all these emails that we were in, all these newsletters that we were in didn't get revenue, I knew that it was building our brand and we were a new company. And after people see it multiple times, then we become a more established company.
Well, I think that's probably a good place to wrap up. Just to summarize what we talked about today, we just talked about all our failures, all the go-to-market strategies that we tried that did not work, from product hunt launch to LinkedIn outreach, all of the above, paid ads. With that in mind, what is your hot take for our listeners today?
Yeah, I mean, my hot take is I think building a startup is really throwing everything against the wall and seeing what sticks. You can try your best to choose the best strategies, but a lot of times you don't know what the result's going to be until you actually do it. And what worked for someone else and their product and their audience may not work for you. And you need to do all the things, especially all the things that don't work, so you know exactly what to focus on. Saying no to things is just as important as saying yes to things.
Yeah, I agree.
What's your hot take?
Well, I would say learn quickly and move on when something's not working. You have to give something a fair shake. I think it's sometimes easy to become discouraged when you fail, and you just got to learn to shake that off. Once you realize that something's not working, to move on and just, that's easier said than done, but you just got to kind of pick yourself up and go on to the next thing, which is hard when you're maybe not seeing immediate results. But like you said, every little bit helps. You can't really know the impact that you're having, but you just got to keep trying things.
I think you make a good point. I think being a converted sales-led founder where everything was instant gratification, right? Selling a product, someone buying. So you're like, you've got this dopamine of a sale. It's a bit depressing when you do so many things and it doesn't work and you don't know if it works and the trials don't change. It's been 4 years since launch. Our trials don't really change that much. It's really frustrating. Sometimes you do a lot of stuff and then it's a down month and you're like, why is it going down? But at the end of the day, like, you just have to have faith that it is all working and this is normal. Like all the stuff you read on the internet and on LinkedIn and how successful other people are, like they're all going through the similar things as you.
And yes, you can lean into the things that work, but yes, you just have to keep trying.
Yeah. So if you have been enjoying this podcast we have a small favor to ask. The only way this podcast grows is by word of mouth. So if you'll do us a favor and hit the subscribe button or follow button wherever you're listening or watching this podcast right now, it would mean the world to us and help us continue to spend time making these episodes for you. You can ping me on LinkedIn if there are particular topics you want us to get into this season, and send me any feedback that you have on this podcast because I love hearing from you. My name is Melissa Kwan, last name spelled Kwan, and to get notified of new episodes, join our mailing list by going to ProfitLed.fm. I promise to only share things you'll actually care about. Thanks for listening. Bye now.